Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Shaken and Stirred Show. I'm Nigel Barker in New York, and I've got a rather exciting guest for you this week. You know, I'm a bit of a country fan. You probably figure that out right now when you look at all the people I've had on Shaken and Stirred. And yes, an English boy likes country. Country is popular the world over. You can hear my guest laughing in the background. She's got an incredibly contagious laugh, a beautiful face, great voice that is, I gotta say, for me, one of the best voices in country I've heard in, I like to say, almost forever. I really mean this. I was listening to her music today again, eyes closed, and just thought, it was nostalgic for me, but at the same time rich and new and powerful and poignant. And you know, there's something about the way you sing that it doesn't make it sort of flippant. Let me just introduce my guest already. All right, our guest is a fabulous guest. She's a country music sensation. She won the Juno Award for Album of the Year in 2021. 3 times Canadian Academy of Country Music Award winner in 2020, 2 times Academy of Country Music winner in 2020 as well, and was just named to Forbes 2022 30 Under 30 list. Here to chat with us, please welcome Tenille Townes. Tenille, how are you?
Well, hello, Nigel. I'm so good. So glad to be hanging with you today. Thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure. By the way, if you're not watching this, which by the way, you can watch this on our YouTube channel and you're just listening, Tenille is in front of what looks like a sort of purple velvet sort of drapes. It's very pro. I feel like she's being interviewed for like the, I don't know, like it's the Grammys or it's one of these country music awards. Her guitar is off to her left. I mean, it's really very sort of staged, which means she could be singing for us, people. This could happen.
Well, thank you. That's right. It's within arm's reach. You know, it's ready for at any moment. But yeah, this is my I'm sitting in my little music room at my house, and such a time as this calls for setting up a nice little background for things just like this right now. So here we are.
It. This is the real deal. This is at home. People, this is what we do. I'm in my office, so you can literally see it. And I've got my books behind me.
I love it. I was going to say,
you have set up the drapes.
I've got the drapes hung. What are you reading? I'm looking at your books over there.
I've got classic kind of, you know, Avedon, The Art of Fashion, Barney's, Vanity Fair books. You know,
love it.
I've even got my own book because I'm that kind of person that likes to plug myself at regular intervals and just make sure I can look at myself every once in a while when I stroll by. But enough about me. Tenille, what are you drinking?
Okay, I am drinking one of my very favorite things to have, which is a chai latte, and I like to have it with coconut milk. And this chai actually comes from a little cafe here in Nashville called Sam and Zoe's, which is the very first coffee shop that I visited when I moved here. So my dad and he helped me make the 45-hour drive from Grand Prairie, Alberta, all the way to Nashville, Tennessee. And I stayed in this area called Berry Hill and rented this place. And my dad kind of stayed for a few days, got me some groceries, and was like, all right, good luck, kid. And he flew back home. And so Sam and Zoe's was within walking distance from the first place that I stayed. And I went there all the time. It became like my favorite little comfort zone. And I've lived in several different neighborhoods in Nashville at this point. And it doesn't matter where I live. I will drive any distance to go all the way to Sam and Zoe's, get my favorite chai. It kind of tastes like a Dunkaroo in a cup. You know those cookies with the icing? It's like, it's so good. It's just really sweet, and that's my favorite way to kind of have a chai. So, cheers from the Sam and Zoe's chai.
Cheers
what are you?
I'm going to tell you about my drink, but before we get there, you just mentioned that you drove down, right?
Yes, I did.
And then your father flew back. So, were you driving your car down there? Is that the reason, or why on earth did you drive?
I know it's a very, very valid question, but yeah, I made the drive because I wanted to have my vehicle here. So I have a little Tacoma truck that I've driven since high school, and we made the trek in that set of wheels, and it's still here. I know, right? It is risky. Yeah, it's still here with me now. So.
Well, fantastic. I was like, this is an interesting one, because whoever's daring enough to drive for 45 hours in an old car and then have the dad fly back, I'm like, something's up with that.
That's right.
I was inspired by your drink, and what I
Okay.
decided to do, because I heard that you were drinking a chai latte, and this is the Shaken and Stirred show. We like to make cocktails on the show. It is 5 o'clock somewhere,
It
probably
is
not where you
5
are in
o'clock
Nashville, but
somewhere.
it is
No, it's
definitely
not,
here
which
where
is
I
why
am in
I
New
have a
York.
chai, but
And what I've done is I've created a chai white Russian, right? So what a white Russian
Ooh.
is essentially Kahlua, which is in fact
Yes.
rum and coffee liqueur, right? It's mixed with vodka, and then you put milk or cream, heavy cream, on the top of it. And actually, why it's so similar to yours is I don't like too much dairy, so I actually
Mm.
opted for coconut milk too.
Amazing.
So you and I both
Amazing.
have coconut milk. I got
I
my
love
vodka,
that.
and this morning I steeped. This is something very interesting, folks. You can do this with vodka. Anyone who drinks vodka knows it's a great mixer. It's basically got no flavor of its own. So if you put lemon, lime, anything into it, you transform the drink. Vodka's great at that. It's really good at accepting tea. And last year I
Huh.
got into this by infusing. You put like your favorite flavored, tea, and you put it directly into the vodka. You leave it for a couple of hours,
No
and the
way.
vodka takes on the flavor of the tea. So it becomes like a simple syrup. So I use a chai tea bag in my vodka,
That's
and
so
so
perfect.
hence I have a chai white Russian. Cheers.
Wow. Cheers. That sounds really good. That sounds
It's
delicious.
pretty delicious, actually. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
It's actually, well, the problem though with White Russians is that they're very high in sugar. So
Mm.
if you don't want to have a wicked hangover the next day, one is all I recommend. Maybe two if you're gonna, but if you're a quick drinker like me, otherwise, loads of sugar, very fattening. It's cream, it's sugar, it's
Oh, it's so
vodka, it's
tasty.
everything. It's like blah. It's like a dessert in a
Yes,
glass.
a dessert
But
in a
anyway,
glass. And so
let's give
just
up.
the one will do.
Do you drink at all?
I do a little, yeah. That sounds delicious. That does sound like dessert. That sounds like something you kind of have after a nice piece of, I don't know, nice meal and sit down and have a
What is your
chai.
go-to drink?
Um, Probably wine. I think I like I love like a cab sauv or like a rosé sometimes. I don't know. I can do like I love a good Moscow Mule too. Those are always tasty.
They are. The Moscow mules are great. Do you have the official Moscow mule glass? Do you make them yourself? They're little goblets.
I don't. I'm not nearly that official, but I should. I should get a couple of those in my kitchen. That would be good.
It's funny. I have a whole collection of all kinds of barware. Not shocking, considering that I have
That
a
doesn't surprise me. I love
podcast
that
called The
you
Shaken
have
and
this
Stirred Show.
podcast.
But is there a favorite wine opener, or when it comes to opening the wine bottle yourself, are you one of those people that goes for the corked variety, or do you like the screw top?
Ooh, I don't know that I'm nearly fancy enough to honestly tell the difference probably between that. So I would prefer probably the screw because it's just easier, but I do have like just a normal wine opener that I struggle with, definitely.
Well, that's the reason I was someone who hated the screw tops originally because I was old fashioned and I thought, it's sort of fancy. I like the whole tradition and ceremony of popping a
Yes.
cork. But then actually now I'm like, I opt for the ones with the screw top
I
because it's so
know.
much easier. I don't have to worry about it. And if you don't finish it, you can just put the screw top back on again, shove it in the fridge, and you're good to go the next day. So hey,
That's
people.
very true. I know. I do love that. I will say I just recently learned how to like be confident in opening champagne, and I'm pretty excited about that because that's so much fun. It's
Oh,
just like,
really?
wow, it feels so exciting in the room when everyone's standing there and you're like, "Oh, let me get the champagne," and it kinda goes everywhere and makes this exciting noise. It's very celebratory. I love that.
So what is you said you learned how to do it. What is your technique?
Well, someone showed me that if you hold it and you turn the bottom instead of trying to turn the actual, cork, that kind of is works better, and so now I feel like if I can control it better if I'm turning it from the bottom.
So absolutely, although the angle you're holding your hand just then, you're
Yeah,
about to take someone's eye out, Tenille. You understand that you don't aim it directly into their face and twist the
I do
bottom. It's literally
understand
like a
that. I
cannon.
do. I know. I've still got a lot to learn, you know?
But here's the good news, and everyone out there, if you go to a restaurant, you order champagne, and if the waiter makes a very quiet pop, doesn't, the drama, I mean, it's like a a little slight quiet pop, then he's not done it right. The actual
Mm.
loud pop is what you want to hear, and the loud pop actually it releases all the carbon dioxide in the champagne and gives it its proper bubble. If you try
Wow.
and resist it and make it quiet, you don't release it properly, and you actually have a flat champagne. So don't try and stifle the pop.
Wow. That's I feel like that's very metaphorical for celebrating needs to be all the way. It needs to be you need to experience the full pop of it. I like that.
I could hear a song coming on,
I
people.
know.
Something.
Let me work on that.
I saw your little mind there. You were up to the left, and it was. I could see you writing right there. This is how it happens. I want to
That
be. I
is
want to
how
be
it
in it. By the
happens.
way, I want to be in the
Okay.
song. Somehow you got to. There's not enough mentions of people like Nigel in country
Okay.
music.
I will make it very clear, Nigel. I like that.
So listen, let's talk about your music. Let's get on with it. That's what everyone wants to hear about. You've first of all, you've got already an impressive career almost. I mean, in as much as I look back and you really got into music several years ago when you were much younger. Talk to us
Mm.
about this past year and a half, because it's really been pretty meteoric for you just recently in this, when a lot of people have been suffering through the pandemic and everything else. You've had a kind of a career surge in a way. What has it been like since, I guess, the past 2 years for you?
What a wild adventure the past couple years have been, and it's so strange to celebrate things in a time where, as an entire globe, we're just going through something so monumental and heavy. And I think that that's in a lot of ways what the job of art is, to reflect and to kind of come in and hopefully lift some spirits. And so we put out the debut album called The Lemonade Stand
Congratulations.
last thank you, last July. And so that felt like we were just sort of getting into the middle of 2020, and releasing that album did not look anything like I had imagined that it would leading up to that, writing the songs, working on it in the studio the few years prior. And the closer that we got, the more I just felt so very much so that it was exactly the right time to put out that music. And I'm so grateful that we got to, and that the year of 2020 will, for me, represent the time of that album alongside everything else that was happening in the world. So it was wonderful to get to do so many different things, to still connect with people through the distance, and different live streams and award shows that still kind of happened and made a way to bring people together. That was really cool to get to celebrate through that time. And then the later part of last year, I got to be a part of the Brothers Osborne tour, opening up for them, which was
Amazing.
just such a joy. I love those guys so much. They're just such great human beings and incredible artists and songwriters. And loved getting to adventure on that tour. And we got to wrap up last year just before regulations shifted again, to playing my very first headlining tour up in Canada. So it felt so good to get to be back in the homeland.
And you
And
sold out in Alberta, correct?
it was crazy. Yes, we did. I still can't believe that happened, but people came and they knew the songs. And that was just, it was so special to me to get to see everybody coming together in a room, and just connecting through the music in such a person to person way. It was so wonderful to experience that. And yeah, to stand there in my home province in Alberta and seeing an entire beautiful symphony center with all the seats filled was just beyond my wildest dreams. It was so wonderful.
No, absolutely. It's one of those things when you speak to artists and you ask them about that moment when you step on stage, especially when it's hometown, and
Yeah.
you sort of get back and because I would imagine you probably went there as a kid or knew of the space and dreamt of being there and singing on that stage, and then to sort of be there with packed seats, it's got to be a moment, right?
It is, it's so emotional, and so it just makes it feel like crazy things are possible, because as that kid who sat in that venue or any venue and was just watching my heroes on stage, it's like, okay, that's it. That's what I want to do. And it just seems so far away when you're sitting there. It seems like this untouchable, like, wow, what a dream that would be kind of a feeling. And then to really be walking this out. I'm doing my best to try to just journal as much as I can, because I don't want to forget the little moments of it that's like you imagine something and then it's happening and it's like there's color that's added and the shape is a little different than you thought it would be, or this emotion feels a little different or whatever it might be, but it's like wow, what a cool thing to see that happen in real life from the kid who was just singing along at the top of her lungs to the music that I loved growing up.
And I guess the right now, living where you are, the Ryman has to be high on the list of
Mm.
places to perform, no?
Yeah, absolutely. That's on the vision board. That's a big dream venue to hopefully play soon. That'd be so cool.
I photographed Taylor Swift there, and it was
Oh,
a
wow.
really special kind of moment for both her and myself. Actually, at the time, we spent the whole day doing a whole bunch of great pictures as a part of a book that I was
I
shooting of
love
her.
that.
Yeah, and it was just a sort of, that place has got just such incredible bones, obviously, in the history
Yeah.
that of the music that's being played there. You feel it in every seat, in every area. Like
Yeah.
there's just, it's like the wood itself has soaked up the music and the
Yes.
the emotion and the feeling, and it's something very magical.
You're so right. I mean, you can't run from it in a place like that. I think I I sat there and watched one of my heroes, Patty Griffin, play actually shortly after moving to Nashville, and you're just like, wow, it just feels sacred. It really does. And we got to do actually a Big Hearts for Big Kids as a charity event from my hometown. And we got to do during the pandemic. That was another beautiful silver lining was to do the fundraiser from couldn't fly home to do it, so we did it live streaming it from the Ryman, which was so crazy because the place was empty, and you're standing there on the stage, and all I could imagine was like the history of people who have played there before, and it really feels like I don't know that it's just like there's just angels that are coming to hang out in there, and to just sing a song to that empty place and imagine the people who were watching and still filling that space with their spirit from afar, but also just imagining the spirits all through history that have really come around that place. It's really something special.
Well, you just brought up Big Hearts for Big Kids, which is it's in fact, you tell us about it. It's your hometown's local youth shelter, right? And you have raised over $2 million for them, which is extraordinary. Since you were 15 years old, you've been, raising money for them. This is what I mean by you've had a kind of a career already, because the fact that you've already raised sort of $2 million for a local shelter is super impressive. But give us the lowdown on what they do and what it's about.
Well, thank you for asking about this. This is like my favorite thing to talk about. But yeah, we have this youth shelter. It's called the Sunrise House, and they help kids ages 12 to 17 who are struggling or at risk of homelessness. And um, I learned about the Sunrise House when I was 15, and I was the same age as so many of the kids who are going in and out of the space. And I'm from a small town, and I think imagining the need for a place for that's safe for somebody to be able to turn to like that is like so hard to imagine in your own hometown, but it exists in every hometown. And so music is this beautiful vehicle to bring people together. So I thought, well, what if we just threw a little concert and invited some friends and family to come out and we could support the Sunrise House and some of the supplies that they're needing. And this little idea just grew and grew, and we rented this hall and got some decorations and some silent auction items. And we were all ready for the show, and the night of the very first event the shelter director came to me in tears and told me that they had to close the doors that morning due to lack of funding and found foster care for everybody. And it was just this moment of like, if you need to turn your event in a different direction, we understand. But we've kind of hit the bottom. And it was this moment of we all looked around and we're like, oh, this is still happening, and we're gonna get those doors wide open again. And in one night, I watched the community come together, and we raised over $30,000, and more than that, just this awareness of how much we could all be a part of wrapping our arms around the Sunrise House. And we've continued that event every year since. So we sing some songs and invite everybody to have a great time at this party. And it has blown my mind watching what can happen when a small group of people come together and really believe in something. So I just love the event so much. I look forward to getting to continue to do that at home and hopefully in other places too.
Amazing, incredible work, and it's just bringing people together, like you said. It's about community. It's about when I think of what you're doing and what you've done. We've had people on here who've done extraordinary things as well, but I think that homelessness is such a massive issue, and especially with youth. That
Hmm.
oftentimes they're ignored. The homeless people don't understand them. There's a lot of judgmental people out there who judge people for being homeless, and and then you see that there are children that are homeless and where they came from
Hmm.
and the difficult house, it's a home situation that they went through, and it can be completely tragic. I mean, for yourself, what drew you specifically to something like this type of organization versus it could be anything?
I was reading this pamphlet about, like I was saying, kids who were my age in my own hometown, and I was like, how did I get dealt this hand in the sense of, you know, to get to be in a warm home with heat on right now in this whatever freezing cold winter climate and get to sit at the table with my family and have a meal, and like I felt so grateful and also just so um like wow, we're all dealt certain circumstances that we're just born with, and a lot of we don't get to necessarily choose those. It's just what happens. And I think in thinking about the fact that every single person has a story no matter what their circumstances is such an important thing. And I grew up being surrounded by people in my family who very much believed that and talked about that on a regular basis. So it was just kind of in the hardwiring of how to think about fellow human beings and what can we do to help. That just sort of was the thing to do.
Oh, well, clearly kudos to your parents too. I know you mentioned your parents a couple of times already, but it's sort of your father, and certainly it's sort of I think to be a young person and a teenager and to be thinking about other kids is really admirable, because I think a lot of times teenagers are often at that moment in life when they're thinking about themselves and themselves
Hmm.
only. So the fact that you were really, it says a lot about you, and it speaks a lot about your music, by the way. I mean, I find your music to be very vulnerable,
Thanks.
and that it's you have a way of making things incredibly personal, even perhaps when they're bigger subjects, but then you also get personal. And to talk to us about certainly I know you've got you've got this new album out at Lemonade Stand, and that you recently released a song called Villain and Me, and I was just listening to that just before you came on, just wanting to listen to it again to hear your voice and kind of
Hmm.
really get a sense of you again. And it's a gorgeous, beautiful song, but it's very kind of, I guess when I listen to it, it's super emotional. What was your talks about the song, but also your process about really opening up like that?
Hmm. Thank you for asking about that song. I think for me, songwriting is such a sort of spiritual process in a lot of ways where I just feel like I'm kind of the vessel, like you're just sort of catching whatever you're hearing. It's such a mystery, like the process of writing a song or just creativity in general. It's like, how did this thing that didn't exist in the world before just kind of happen? And in the past, my favorite way to write songs is always from sort of the third party observer perspective. And it's my way to be able to tell a story of what I'm witnessing and kind of understand how I feel about it or what my part is in that. And um, it's been a very healing thing for me to be able to kind of just write what I'm seeing. But I think this past sort of couple of years of in a way being forced to spend a lot more time at home and a lot more time by myself with my sort of vulnerable and sometimes more uncomfortable, thoughts. It's like, okay, where do I put all of these feelings that I have? And music is my safe place for that. So Villain in Me very much came from sort of that time of self-reflection and turmoil about the voices that very much exist in my head, and I think in all of our heads in some ways, that tell us we're not good enough, or whatever our personal and individual struggles might be. Those are really loud voices. So this is definitely the most personal song that I've ever shared. It was really terrifying to post it out there. I'd shared the video just sort of playing the song on my guitar, and to hear people talk about the fact that, that they feel the same way in a lot of ways was so encouraging to me, and definitely gave me some courage to be able to share that song out there. So this song sort of marks the beginning of the new adventure of sharing a list of songs that I'm getting really excited to finishing right now in the studio, and kind of putting this next collection of songs together that very much branch out from that more personal state, I guess.
And you're about to embark on a headlining tour in the US, the Villain and Me tour, right?
Yes.
And when does that start?
It starts in a couple of weeks.
Amazing.
Yes, I'm so excited. These are places that I've had the just honor of getting to travel and tour to, opening up for so many of my heroes and friends, and to be able to come back to some of these cities and do our own shows. It's just such a dream. I can't wait to see everybody and all come together around these songs.
Now, everyone has a process. Every musician I've ever interviewed has a process. And with you, is it the lyrics first? You find a sound, and then perhaps think, I want to write something to this sound I made. Is it a bit of both? How does it go for you?
Honestly, every song is a little bit different. I think I have a really hard time thinking about lyrics without sort of the boat that they're rolling down the river down musically. It's like without sort of this sense of direction, um, musically, it's hard for me to kind of put lyrics without that. So they very much feed each other to me. But I think this thing that often starts it is an idea or a concept or something that I want to say, and then kind of finding the music or the lyric that goes with that is helpful to me. Sometimes though, songs are such little mysteries, and it's like I'll just be sitting in a room with a friend or pick up a guitar, and it's like I have no idea what just happened, but let's write that. Like this thing just sort of falls out. So you can't even really catch it or try to put it in a bottle if you try. I really don't think you can.
You have your guitar right next to you. Do you have a series of guitars? Is that your favorite guitar right there? I know some people collect these things. Some people have one guitar they like to play everything on. What is that? What's that? Your baby? What is that?
Yeah, so this is a new guitar actually. I have this thing where I like to kind of starting with the first record, The Lemonade Stand, I wanted to make a time capsule with each of the guitars so that every guitar gets sort of decorated with the songs and the lyric kind of tattooed in a way. So hold on one second, actually, I'll grab this one. This was the first guitar that started it, and so I had my friend Louis Lavoie paint a bunch of symbols on
Amazing.
it. And then this new guitar here has a sunrise on it because it feels like the beginning of this new horizon and the theme of the light sort of coming in through the cracks. So I just started painting this one, and we'll kind of continue it as we go, releasing more and more songs.
And do they sound different to you, or I mean, I guess to someone like me, they probably sound the same. But to you, do they have like slightly different sounds to them because of the newer, the different woods and all that kind of thing?
Definitely, which is kind of beyond my knowledge in a lot of ways, but every guitar sort of has its own personality, I think. These are both acoustic guitars, but the first one is definitely an older model I found at this little vintage guitar shop in Austin, Texas, and it's a it's it's a 19 think 40 something, so the it doesn't stay in tune quite as well as this new guitar is definitely a little happier being on the road with changing climates and things. It's a newer model, but they're both Martin guitars, and yeah, they both have their own character for sure.
Sounds like me. The older I get, the harder it is for me to stay in tune. But you can't blame us. You can't judge us.
That's funny.
So look, let's talk fashion too. I want to talk a bit about clothing and your
Oh,
outfits, and
okay.
you're on stage, you're with you're there performing. What is the thought process you put behind your outfit, your look?
Hmm. Well, I always like to wear things that just kind of make me feel like the most confident version of myself. What's funny is I step on stage, I'm very much like an introverted person, always overthinking everything, but something happens when I step up there and I just sort of stop doing that and feel like the most fierce version of myself. And I always like to wear things that kind of match that, that feel a little bit like an armor. And um, I love to wear things that feel like a little bit bright on stage. Mostly, I'm just obsessed with shoes. Truly, that's I pick an outfit based on the shoes I feel like wearing, or the ones that seem like they're calling to me the, the loudest.
Fantastic. I love a good pair of shoes too. And actually, I'm responsible for buying most of my wife's shoes for her. So she's, because I'm
Ooh, I
like,
love that.
yeah, I like a good pair of heels on her. So I'm like, Louboutin and Jimmy Choo
Nice.
and a few like, what are you? Are you boots or your heels? What is your thing?
I like boots, and honestly, they have to be kind of a shorter heel for me because I really like to run around and jump and things, and I can't. I'm not very skilled to do that off of very tall, scary shoes. I'm also just clumsy, so it's better to not have the height wobbling in my disadvantage.
Do you work with a stylist at all? Or are you out there shopping for your own look, your own thing?
I do work with a stylist. I'm very grateful to because I'm that naturally is not something like I'll go into store and look at things and be like, I have no idea. So I'm really really glad for some help with that for sure.
Have you
Um,
ever had like faux pas, things you did, or fashion faux pas, things you were like, you know what, you look back, why was I wearing that, or that was not the look, or you sort of just move on and you're okay with it no matter what?
I think there's definitely some, especially in like the sort of growing up years, I can look back and be like, I don't know what I was thinking there. So there's a little bit of that, but mostly I just kind of look at it as little. I think it's part of our time capsule of like our human existence of what felt right in that moment. I think we're all growing, evolving people, or it's one thing feels good first season, and then we kind of embrace the next thing that comes along, whether we think the last one was crazy or not.
Talk to me about being on tour. You were on tour last year, um, and it was a strange time. Musicians are sort of both dying to get on tour, and also, it's difficult to be on tour. People are sort of forgetting what it's like to go to concerts, and
Yeah.
it's a tough time out there. Yet it's something which we're all very excited for. And what was it like for you to sort of step out on that stage with people listening to music for the first time live, perhaps in maybe a couple of years?
It was very overwhelming, truly. I mean, I think just as much as everyone's forgotten, including myself, like what it feels like to go to a show is kind of like putting on a pair of shoes you haven't worn in a while. And, just socially, it's so interesting to be around big groups of people again. It took a minute for me too, but I will say the very first show we played, we got up on stage to start the sound check, and heard the kick drum start, and it's just like feels so emotional to go, wow, I've really missed this so much. It feels like such a big part of who I am, and it really kind of sat quiet for a while, and I was so grateful for the return of that. So it took a little bit to kind of get back into the groove, and but being out there and seeing people's faces and being able to really feel music, that's there's so many ways we can make the best of it through the distance, I think, and still stay connected, but there is this sort of irreplaceable communal joy, communal sorrow, communal whatever that feeling is that a song brings us that's really hard to replicate without being in the same room, and I think that's a good thing. I think that makes it something special, and something that can continue to bring, have that sort of driving purpose to bring us together. So to feel that again was such a joy. And even now, it's really interesting, hard times to navigate and to plan ahead for this year. Even just from a few weeks from now, it's like, okay, are we going to be able to do this show here? How is this going to unfold? And everything kind of keeps growing and changing, but I keep holding on to the hope and the truth that live music is, I think, something really important for our souls. And we're gonna get there. We're gonna come back around to it in all the ways that we can.
Music is something which you mentioned earlier, but it's sort of universal. It's sort of, no matter where you are in the world, what culture, what type, there is music everywhere. And country music is something which, it seems to be quintessentially sort of American, but it's really not in many ways. It's sort of,
Mhm.
it's something where that what country is about in a way is it's everywhere. You know, you find it in every
Yeah.
small town in every country, really. And it's I found it amazing that country music is sort of big in places like South Africa, for example, and the UK and Europe and all over the place because people are you just assume Nashville because it's the sort of home of country music, but there are people everywhere doing it. For you, what was your coming from Canada, what made you go, okay, I want to get into country music? What was that genre that really spoke to you?
I think it's the element of storytelling, and I think country music has a really unique way of really kind of talking about things that feel, I think, vulnerable and honest and human. And it's the kind of music that I grew up listening to, with my family. And um, Nashville definitely has such a heartbeat for it. But I think you're right. It's very universal because the emotions are the same. Whatever your home is, there's such a like anchor to country music that makes, I think, it's like it feels like home. It feels like an anchor of our identity. I think whatever that home looks like, you can be listening to a Dolly Parton song driving through the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee where it was from, or from whatever terrain, or the river by my house in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and it feels like she's talking about my home, and I think there's something powerful about that in country that definitely drew me in.
Gotta love Dolly.
Me too.
Yeah, she's just a legend. Every time anyone mentions her, I just get a smile on my face. 'Cause there's something about her that it's just so nostalgic at the same time. It's such fun, good memories of music that she's done, films that she's been in. I love a good Dolly Parton mention.
Me too. I love that it makes you smile. That's such a good thing to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, which is great, right? Which is, I mean, I got to ask you too. I mean, you're writing this music now. You're still super young, and you've got these legends and people like that, like Dolly that you mentioned. But what are you hoping people are going to take away from your music? Really, I mean, what are they? What's their? What are they going to think about? What would you like them to think about when they listen to your music?
I want them to feel comforted and to feel like they're not alone. I think that's the greatest gift of music is the way that it whispers that in all kinds of different songs. But to me, that's my greatest hope is that people can feel like they can show up and be who they are and not be alone.
You write, we make each other braver. I found that something you said that with
Hmm.
your music, you wrote, I'm inspired by people and their stories. I'm so grateful for music and the way it makes us feel like we're never alone. I believe we have everything we need inside of us to be a light for the world. We make each other braver.
I do believe that. Dang, thank you for finding that.
No, I like it. I mean, it's, brave. What does bravery mean to you? Because it's an interesting thing. It's sort of, we live in a world where we need bravery, and it is scary. It's a scary world for a lot of people. And do you truly I think that you're right though. When people listen to music, they hear someone else going through it and willing to talk about it out loud, and it
Hmm.
sometimes can be that moment for that young girl, young boy, somewhere in the middle of nowhere where they don't feel like they've got anyone to speak to, and or who gets them, and, or is going through what they're going through, and then they hear a song like one of your songs, like "Villain and Me," and they're like, "Shit, that's me." You know what I mean? Or
Hmm.
so I'm not the only one. I'm not alone, right? And is that what you mean by makes them braver? Because all of a sudden they're like, "Okay, I can do this. I can speak about this because I'm not alone."
That is exactly what I mean by that. I think often bravery seems like, I don't know, like this knight that is like this loud way of conquering the world, and it's like bravery seems like such a big word, but in truth, I think bravery is in the little things. It's about the hard conversations. It's about being honest. It's about, you know, showing up in whatever form it is to just be yourself. And I think it's incredibly contagious. Like you see someone else show up and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," or "Oh, this is something hard," or "I don't know how I feel about this," or whatever the thing is. And to be able to communicate that in a song is definitely um, one of my greatest missions and goals, and not often easy because it's about being vulnerable, and that means being brave myself. But hearing from people. It's always my favorite to get to talk to somebody by a merch stand after the show, or being able to message someone on Instagram and hearing a story of what a song has meant to them in their life, or how it's made them feel braver, and that instantly makes me feel braver. And I just think that's such a beautiful transaction that can happen with songs, and I feel so grateful to hear from people in that way, and um, to really kind of see it firsthand is something just incredible to me.
You just mentioned Instagram. Now, I've checked out your Instagram. I actually follow you on Instagram. And
Aw, thanks for that.
and well, you know what, guys, everyone out there, if you want Tenille's number, she gives it to you right there on Instagram. So, I'm like, she's either daring or crazy, or maybe a bit of both. But you
Definitely both.
actually ask people to text you and directly say, "Here's my number. Text me if you've got something." Really, really. I mean, is your phone not ringing off the hook? What is that about?
It's a road phone, and it's a place where I'm constantly getting to like read messages from people, because that is such fuel to me, as so much of the community aspect of music that I love. So it brings me such great joy to
So
hear
it's
from
not your own
everyone.
phone number. It's just like directly to like the sort of the red recording of like, "You've reached Tenille Townes. Please leave him. I can't speak right now. Please leave a message."
Yes, but it is my phone. It is a part of my phone. So it is definitely something that I am seeing and getting to respond to messages directly from, and be able to send people messages from. So I love getting to do that.
What do you think of Instagram and everything? Have you, I mean, you're obviously on it. You've got, a nice little following already, and you kind of, you can sort of, you're on there, and I see you do other sort of like cool videos and stuff like that about who you are as a person. Do you find it a useful tool, or is it a distraction, or is it a great way to communicate with your fans and things?
It is all of those things. I'm so grateful that it's a place to have a conversation and to get to feel connected to people, and to get to talk about these songs that I'm writing, and have a place to really kind of get them out there in such a organic and honest way. Sometimes I will say that, creating things on socials, or even just the habit of picking up my phone and thinking, "Oh, I should share this moment." Like, that's not often my natural state. So it's definitely can be tricky to me. I don't actually really love the camera at all. It's something that I struggle with and work on. So there are parts of it that are really hard, but the community aspect of it and being able to talk to people is what far overrides my struggles with it.
Well, we're going to have to get you in front of my camera at some point, and then we're going to fix and
Yeah.
sort all of that out. That's for sure. That's coming down the
Okay.
line without a doubt. But there you are on social media. This incredibly talented musician. You're out there. You're putting your number up there. Are people like trying to slip into your DMs and like trying to ask you out on dates and all that kind of business too? Are you dealing
Oh,
with
there's
all of that?
all kinds of mysteries and fun things that come in for sure.
Are you in a relationship right now? May I ask?
I am not, and I actually am about to release a song that talks directly about that, and about the window and sort of, season of my life that I'm going through right now, where it feels like all of my friends are getting married and having babies, and to kind of like talk about this, um in the sense of what it feels like to sometimes, be the single one, and how it's one of those things that it very much can feel like you're the only one. And if I was writing this going, if I'm feeling this way, then I know there's got to be more people who feel this way too. And I'm so excited to get this song out there. And we've been like putting little pieces and up on Instagram and TikTok, and hearing people's comments about it and being like, "Oh, I feel this too," is just bringing me such joy. So I can't wait to get this song out there.
But it's kind of terrifying dating a musician. I mean, just the fact that you're writing about the fact you're not in a relationship. The
That's
biggest
right.
problem with dating a musician is that you date them, they write about you. You
This is
break up with
true.
them, they write a song about you. It's like your material. It's like
That's
you're gonna
right.
someone dates you. They are basically offering themselves up to be written into your songs, and so it's like, okay, maybe I'll pass on that one for the moment. Have you not thought of that?
That's a very good point. There's a lot to sign up for.
Is there anything that's like like you won't write about? Is there other things that are too personal, or what? Where do you draw that line?
You know what's funny is I think the music kind of draws the line for me. Like I always trust the music, and as I'm writing, it very much feels like that's something I want to say, or no, that's not right. Like it's like the internal compass of the music to me always knows where that line is.
So that song you mentioned before, you said it's called "When It's Gonna Happen."
When's it gonna happen? Yep.
See, and I saw that on social. I saw you talk about it. That's where I see it, and there has been a sort of a big reaction to that song. And do you like to test the waters with your songs on social to see how they're going to react before you release them?
I do, I very much do. It's really important to me to see how people feel about it, and it's exciting to get to share it and go, "Okay, let's try this one or try this one," and kind of follow that lead a little bit. I also love to be able to try them out in a live show, which was really fun to get to try a few new songs out on the Canadian tour that we did at the end of last year and go, "Okay, how did this kind of feel out there in the room to someone who's a group of people that have never heard these songs before?" It's really exciting to kind of try that out.
I'm looking at that guitar next to you. I'm feeling like I feel like I would love to hear you strum it. I don't know if that's asking too much, but
Oh, sure, yeah.
it's right there, and I'm like, God damn it! If she's such an amazing singer, is there anything we can hear at all?
Well, certainly, I could play a piece of something.
Let's do it.
Hopefully it sounds all right through these headphones. Let's see, what do you want to hear?
I mean, I love Villain and Me, to be honest with you, but I mean, that might be too complicated.
No, let's do it. Pulls back the arrow, knows exactly where to start. The weak spot in the armor that cuts straight to the heart. And the clouds roll over, temperature drops as it gets closer, and it all goes quiet, too quiet. The voice that I don't want to hear, the hurtful words I say, the long list of things about myself I want to change. The heavy cloud that won't leave even after it rains. Try to be a hero till it brings me to my knees. There's a villain in me. A villain in me.
Woo! Amazing. Thank you so much.
you.
My God, you're so good. You are so,
Thanks,
so good. Where
Nigel.
did that voice come from? Is it a long line of voices? Have you got someone else is there someone in your family that's got that voice too?
Honestly, no. We all love music and everyone loves to sing along, but they would say they have no idea where it came from.
It's a deep soul right there. I don't know where that came from too. I mean, it's just something about your voice, and I got to say, maybe people have certain voices for certain people, but when I hear your voice, when I heard it for the first time, Chantal, who is someone who introduced you to me, who's a friend of mine, and
Yes, I love
she sent me
her.
your stuff, and I was just like, she goes, "You got to listen," and I was like, "Yeah, sure, sure, sure." She sends me stuff all the time, and I was like, "Ooh, oh, wait a second,
Oh,
she's
that is
really
so
good."
cool. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Chantel.
100%, 100%. So look, I want to thank you so much for coming on Shaken and Stirred. Really excited for you. Before I let you go, we've got something real quick. It's called Last Orders. It's a few real easy questions on the
Okay.
spot, like fun stuff. But here we go. It's super easy, and you can take your time with answering them. We can kind of cut around it. But if you
Okay.
could drink any cocktail from any movie or television show with that character, who would it be? In other words, if there's somebody you love from any show, any film, and there's a cocktail you could have with them, is which movie would it be? Which show would it be?
Ooh, what a great question. I think, okay, it would probably be on the Friends TV show. I would just love to get to have some of the margaritas that Monica makes on the in the one episode where they're all wearing wedding dresses. That's where I would go.
I love that. I thought you were going to say you're going to have a chai latte in that coffee house they all have.
Well, I would definitely pick the what's it called? What's their coffee house called? Central Perk, but you said cocktail. I don't think they serve those there.
They don't. But I was, this is a show about cocktails, and you had a chai latte, so I thought, you know what, just go with it.
Well, that's what I would go with. That would be my answer.
No, but I love that. Well done. Now you're young, but if there was to be a movie of your life, who would you like to have play you?
Ooh. I don't know who I would pick for that, but I would definitely want Dolly Parton to be the fairy godmother of sorts.
I think you're saying the older version of yourself. You're going to want to grow up to become Dolly Parton.
Yeah, or just the guiding light through the film. That's who I would want in it. Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I love that. Okay, fantasy dinner party. You can invite 4 guests, dead or alive. Who would they be?
I think I would go, okay, my great grandmother, my Mère Willette, she would be there because she's a real hoot. She's pretty awesome. I feel like I would want a lot of really strong, amazing women like Amelia Earhart and probably Dolly. That would probably be the other one. Yeah.
I knew Dolly had to make a bit. I knew you've got one more.
Oh, I've got one more.
Dolly, Amelia, Grandma.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. Good. Let's see. Who else? Oprah. That'd be fun.
Boom. When in doubt, throw Oprah in there. She knows how to certainly ask a good few questions at the dinner party.
Right.
Whether you get a word in edgeways, though, that's the question right there.
Well, fair enough.
Oprah, don't come after me for that. Okay. Do you have any go-to drinking songs? And what I mean by that is when you go out and you go partying, you go to the clubs, you go to the bar, what is your go-to? Put that song on the music box, whatever it might be. You want to listen to it because you're going to have a drink.
I think a throwback that always sort of probably Shania Twain. That would feel like a good time. Yeah.
And which song of hers?
Probably Any Man of Mine.
Any Man of Mine. There you go.
Yes.
Living vicariously through Shania right here. And final question, shaken or stirred?
Shaken.
And any reason why?
Well, I don't know. When I just think of all my favorite, like this was blended. I don't know. Would this have been stirred? Would you stir a chai latte? Would you shake it?
And I was talking about life.
Wow. Shaken, definitely. That's good. That's good.
And on that note, everybody, Tenille Townes, you can catch your new song when it's going to happen. It's being released January 14th. Are you touring again? I think you've got another tour coming up. You mentioned the Villain and Me tour. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. Where can people catch you?
We are coming through a bunch of different cities. So check out TenilleTownes.com, I guess, for all of the tour dates that will be listed there, or come hang out on Instagram or TikTok and I'll tell you all about where we're coming to.
There you go. When in doubt, Instagram or TikTok, but TenilleTownes.com. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful year ahead. I look forward to meeting you in person, getting you in front of my lens. I can't wait.
I can't wait for that. Such a joy to talk to you, Nigel. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Shaken and Stirred. We'll be with you again next week. All the best. Take care. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for listening. That is Shaken and Stirred. We will be back next week with another podcast and another fantastic guest. And stay safe.
This podcast was produced and edited by Embassy Road.